Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar, your host, and today I want to talk about the impact of Senator Chuck Schumer, the highest elected Jewish American in American politics. That's how he's describing himself now, as the highest elected Jewish American in American politics. His speech, in which basically he calls for regime change in Israel. So I'm going to talk about that and basically reflect on that speech and political implications of that speech and what does it say about Biden and his administration and politics in the United States. But before that, please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video. Don't forget to press the bell icon. The pro-Israeli crowd, there is a huge substantive lobby for Israel. AIPAC is very prominent, extremely well-funded, receives literally hundreds of millions of dollars in donation, fortunately, because there are lots of billionaires who are so supportive of Israel, who make large donations, and then AIPAC then gives a lot of this money to American politicians. You can go and look in places like opensecrets.org and other places and look at contributions. Biden himself has received millions of dollars over his career, I think literally hundreds of thousands of dollars from pro-Israeli lobby groups in the United States. But fortunately for this group, they have right now two leaders who are profoundly, strongly Zionist, Netanyahu and Joe Biden, who never forgets to remind us that he's a Zionist. He loves to say that I'm a Zionist. I'm not a Jew, but I'm a Zionist. So we have basically two Zionists in charge of this war on Gaza. But there are two consequences to this genocidal war, which has killed thousands, over 30,000 Gazans, nearly destroyed the whole area. There is nothing left in Gaza right now. Hospitals have been bombed. Even when people are going to collect aid, they are starving to death. Children are starving to death. And even then, neither is America's foreign policy towards that region changing, neither is Israelis. There are some supporters for Israel, and they are provided all of these canards that that Hamas is hiding behind every child that Israel has killed. Over 20,000 women and children have been killed. The devastation is yet to come because Israel is also starving the whole Gaza Strip and also preventing aid from going there. The United States, under Joe Biden, is on one hand saying we want ceasefire and then vetoing calls for ceasefire in the Security Council. On one hand, Biden says he's worried about what is happening to poor, innocent Gazans, and then he continues to send weapons, goes around the Congress, goes around the rules of the State Department for giving weapons where war crimes are being committed. And please go and look at the Israeli soldiers who are so proud of the war crimes that they're committing, is that they're videotaping themselves committing humanitarian war crimes and posting them on social media for the rest of the world to see. In fact, I think they are determined to prove Joe Biden a liar because he keeps saying, oh, Israel is doing a great job of showing concern for civilians in Gaza, whereas IDF soldiers are doing their best to disprove that. So now Chuck Schumer comes and gives a speech in which he declares that Netanyahu is the problem. And if Israel wants to stop becoming a pariah state worldwide, then they need to get rid of Netanyahu. So first of all, this is really very amusing. Literally, I was so amused to listen to his whole speech, a speech which is completely bereft of knowledge of history. So for example, he keeps more than half of the time he's criticizing Hamas. What Hamas did on October 7 is indeed horrible. Killing 1,200 civilians so brutally, if that is horrible, then imagine killing 30,000 civilians brutally. What does that constitute? Democracy? So he has no connection there. Plus, when he talks about the existence of Hamas, he does not even mention the brutal military occupation of Israel for decades. He does not talk about the nearly 2-decade-long blockade of Gaza. He just talks about as if Hamas just appeared out of the blue without any context of occupation and systematic deprivation of Palestinian rights for literally more than half a century. I said, none of that exists. It's amazing how these people get away with speeches like this, which are so entirely ahistorical. He also, in his speech, does not acknowledge the fact that he has been one of the biggest supporters of Netanyahu. And the fact that Netanyahu has become a monster today is because he has been empowered by people like Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer over the decades. Chuck Schumer stood with Netanyahu when he humiliated the American president Barack Obama. He stood with Netanyahu against Obama on the JCPOA issue. They have never criticized. For more than 20 years, Israel has violated international law every day in the West Bank by building illegal settlements. Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, they've always been there in positions of power, either in the Senate and in the case of Biden, he's now spending nearly 12 years in administration. They have never taken any step to disempower Netanyahu or to shut down the illegal construction of settlements in West Bank, which are the fundamental barrier to ever realizing the two-state solution. So this is so profoundly hypocritical, disgusting, and immoral what Chuck Schumer did. He's a hypocrite of the first order. And anybody in America who's taking him seriously is also a hypocrite. They should turn and ask him, what did you do 10 years ago when this man continued to... in fact, even now they have announced construction of new settlements in West Bank. What is the US doing to prevent that? We keep talking about Hamas as an extremist organization. The world should do everything in their hands. They also talk about Israel as the most extremist government that Israel has right now. What have they done to take punitive actions against this extremist government? One speech here, one comment by Biden on MSNBC, and some statements. So this is how I interpret the speech. There are two things that are happening as a result of this genocidal war in Gaza. One, the whole world is seeing what kind of country Israel is. And those who did not know it, when they get curious, they are learning about the systematic violation of Palestinian rights for decades. They're also learning about America's uncritical and absolute support of Israel with whatever it does. America talks from one mouth about rule of law and then continues to support Israel and defend it when it systematically violates international law every day. So the world is learning about it. And so they have realized now that Israel is becoming a pariah state in the world. In fact, the US is isolated. The last vote in the UN Security Council was only the US supporting Israel. Even Great Britain. I mean, you have Rishi Sunak there, this man without a conscience and without a future, by the way. Even he chose to get the Great Britain to abstain. The French are not with the US on this. The European Union is not with the US on this. Only the United States stood alone with Israel to veto the ceasefire. And the president comes and talks to Americans saying, I want to have a ceasefire. And this word temporary ceasefire, I find it is so disgusting. He's saying, let's have a temporary ceasefire so that those 100 hostages which are still with Hamas, they can be released, and then we can continue with this killing spree and kill more 30, 40, 50,000 women and children in Gaza. I refuse to believe that there is no other way of going after Hamas without killing civilians and children and without starving them. So one thing that is happening is Israel is becoming a pariah state. It's making it very difficult even for the dictators in the Middle East to basically, who are afraid of Iran, to continue with the Abrahamic Accords. Even India has changed its position. There is nobody standing with Israel at the moment except Americans. I would love to see an American politician who has not got hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Israeli lobby stand up. Send me their name. I would love to interview them. All of these people have taken lots of money from Israel. They're afraid of the Israeli lobby, so they talk like that. So one worry is that Israel is becoming a pariah state internationally. This whole struggle to make Israel a normal, accepted state, all of that is now gone down the drain because of Netanyahu's government. And the second is the uncommitted votes that you saw in the primaries. That has shaken it up. Biden now realizes there's a very good chance that he could lose because of his Israel policy if the elections gets very close. The Arabs and the Muslims and the young people and the progressives. This is not just about Arabs or Muslims. It's the future of America. The 60, 70-year-old dead people who are going to be dead from 10 years from now, given America's healthcare at the moment, it might be even faster. They are with Israel and the US. But the future of America is not with Israel. All young people below 30 see what is happening. This is a colonial settler project, systematically dispossessing the Palestinians to expand an Israeli state based on religious ideology and using brutal force to basically try and destroy the spirit of a nation. Young people get it. Old people, especially educated Democrats, don't get it. They continue to see Israel as the only democracy in the Middle East. Israel is the only apartheid state in the world. So this is the second thing. Joe Biden is worried that he's going to lose elections. I think the pro-Israeli lobby wants Biden in office. They can't predict how Trump may react if he wins. And certainly he's not sending money to Israel. He may say, Israel, do whatever you want, but he's not going to send money. I don't think he's going to send troops and forces and keep fighting any and every other non-state actor that threatens Israel. He may not constrain Israel, but I don't think he's going to spend money the way Biden is trying to do right now. So this is the fear that Biden could lose, and the other is Israel could become completely isolated globally, making the cost of American foreign policy with the rest of the world go through the roof. More and more countries in the global south are turning away from the United States and towards China and towards Russia and towards India. US-India relations have also deteriorated in the past few weeks. So that is why Schumer and now Biden are trying to get rid of Israel. But there's also another reason why I think so. You know, in the diplomatic circles, there is a joke that goes around saying, do you know why there are no military coups in America, and why aren't generals taking over elected governments in America? The reason for that is because there is no American embassy in Washington, D.C. The point is that America has been instigating coups and regime changes all over the world. America is working so hard to bring about regime change in Iran. America did that in 1953, where they replaced an elected prime minister with a monarch. It was the US that destroyed Iranian fledgling democracy and established monarchy in 1953. The US has pulled around this regime stunt. Now, that regime stunt is coming to Israel, which is very, very amusing. That the United States is now telling the Israelis who they should have as a prime minister or not. But there's also something very insidious about it, and which is blaming Netanyahu and scapegoating Netanyahu. Biden and Schumer are scapegoating Netanyahu, blaming him and him alone for what is happening in Gaza. No, Israel is a democracy, isn't it? Wasn't Netanyahu elected? The Israeli population is behind Netanyahu. Even the opposition are for this war. So everything that is happening in Gaza is happening with the support of the Israeli population, with the support of the Israeli united government. So do not just try to say it's only Israel is the problem. The whole Israeli population is for this war. It's the whole Israeli population which is against the two-state solution at the moment. Some people peg it at 75% opposition to the two-state solution. If two-state solution was a serious solution as they talk about it now, why didn't they push for it 20 years ago? This perception that the spirit of the Palestinians can be broken and they can forget about an independent Palestinian state and Israel will continue to expand and take all the land that it can in West Bank and create this holy biblical state of Israel is going to cause October 7th again and again and again. It's not only that the Palestinians are not living without a state. If they were living in a unified Israel where they had rights and freedom and opportunity, they could have survived without a state. But right now, they not only don't have a state, but they have no rights, no freedom, no dignity. And they are constantly oppressed and constantly robbed on a daily basis. They're not even allowed to harvest their own olive gardens. So to expect them to simply not resist this occupation is inhuman. I don't know why people think that the Palestinians are going to give it up. So this speech by Schumer, for those of you who think are great, let me tell you, it's scapegoating Netanyahu. Netanyahu has been a close friend of Schumer. People like Schumer and Biden have nurtured this man for decades and supported him, knowing fully well that he was never for a two-state solution. And every day he acted to undermine the two-state solution, to think of. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host. Please don't forget to subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, and press the bell icon. Thank you very much for watching.